Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Mercy, for this good introduction. Good afternoon, media here. So maybe before I start, I would like to know this is English speaking, French speaking, Arabic, so it's the three, mostly.
It's mixed French,
it's
Lusophone as well?
Oh, Lusophone as well. Au tarde. I see. So good afternoon, bonjour. As Mercy introduced me, oh yes, Arabic, salam alaikum. Thank you. So as Mercy introduced, so we are here for the 52nd session of the African Conference of Ministers of Finance, Economy and Planning. I would like, first of all, to thank very much the government of the Kingdom of Morocco, which is the host of this conference. We have been working with the government for the last few months in preparing this conference. They have been very helpful. They have put at the disposal of ECA all the means that are available, not only in Marrakesh, but also in Rabat, where is our office for SRO North Africa is based. So I would like to take again this opportunity to thank very much the government of the Kingdom of Morocco. Having said that, as I said, we worked very closely with the government to make sure that this 52nd session is going to be a very successful one. You have received the program, and the meeting is going to take place from the 20th to the 26th. And as you can see in the program, we are going to start tomorrow with the experts group meeting. Then we'll have the regional coordination mechanism. We'll have also the side events, and we'll have the ministerial meeting, which is going to start on the 25th. Having said that, you also have seen in the program and everywhere the government of Morocco has done a wonderful job, as you can see here. The theme of the 52nd session, which is fiscal policy, trade, and the private sector in the digital era, a strategy for Africa. So this is a timely theme. It's a theme that our member states have asked for during the 51st session last year. So we have, as my colleague has introduced the directors, they are going to talk also a little bit about the theme. I'm saying it is timely because it talks about fiscal policies, especially in the context of Agenda 2030 and 2063, on how to finance this ambitious agenda. It talks about the issue of trade and private sector, trade in the context also of the African continental free trade area. And it talks about the private sector because it is essential in a way. It will be at the center of the African continental free trade area, and in the context of the digital era. So there is no way that we can talk of African development if we don't start discussing private sector development, trade and fiscal policy in the context of the digital era. Now, having said this, I'm not going to elaborate very much on this theme. We'll have the opportunity through the presentation of colleagues and the Q&A. I also wanted to highlight that after the discussion of this theme, which is going to be presented also at the expert group meeting, we are going to have also 2 days of the UN African Union Regional Coordination Mechanism, which is a mechanism that has been put in place to enhance the collaboration between the UN system and the African Union and its organs. It will be the 20th session, and we also have we'll have the honor to have the Deputy Secretary General, Ms. Amina Mohamed, who will be here, and also the Deputy Chairperson of the African Union. So the theme of the Regional Coordination Mechanism is going to focus on the theme of the year of the African Union, which is about refugees, internally displaced people, and returnees, and trying to find durable solutions to the problems of refugees and internally displaced people. So this is also an opportunity during the Regional Coordination Mechanism to mobilize the UN system in supporting the African Union and its member states to find, as I said, durable solutions, but also to discuss the root causes of displacement and refugees across the continent. I don't have to say much about this subject. I think we all know, we all see what's going on in different parts of the continent, and especially when we see many of our compatriots across the continent trying sometimes to flee wars, conflicts, but in other cases they are displaced people due to climate change. They are also displaced people due to issues of unemployment and any other issues that are related to lack of political space and economic opportunities. So I hope that we are going to have very exciting and very insightful discussions in the coming 7 days. 7 days seems a lot, but as I said, we'll have an experts group meeting, we'll have the regional coordination meeting, we'll have the side events, and then we'll have the ministerial meetings. So I will leave it here, and Mercy, do you want me to pass to one of the colleagues?
Yes, I think let's hear from Lilia Nas Hashim. She's the director, as I said, of the Sub-Regional Office for Northern Africa, who will take us through the theme and help us understand why this theme is important and what the linkages are between fiscal policy and trade and in this digital era. Is it a pipe dream, or are we really talking about something that's going to change lives on the continent? Thank you.
Merci. Bonjour tout le monde, salam alaikum. Je suis Lilia, je vais le dire correctement, je suis Lilia Hachem Maas. Je suis la directrice du bureau Afrique du Nord, basée à Rabat, donc ici au Maroc. C'est un honneur pour moi d'être parmi vous pour cette conférence de presse. Et en plus des remerciements que Madame Biha vient d'adresser au gouvernement du Royaume du Maroc, je voudrais adresser mes remerciements particulièrement au ministère des Finances et au ministère des Affaires étrangères qui nous ont accompagnés, épaulés et vraiment travaillé très étroitement avec nous pour qu'on arrive aujourd'hui à être ensemble ici. Et on arrive à la mise en place et l'organisation de cette conférence. Donc vraiment avec beaucoup de cœur, je voudrais adresser mes remerciements parce que je sais que ça a pris beaucoup d'efforts. Par rapport au thème de la conférence qui concerne les politiques budgétaires, le commerce, le secteur privé à l'ère du numérique, on espère que cette conférence va nous permettre de discuter d'abord avec les experts et ensuite avec les ministres pour tracer un chemin, développer une feuille de route sur comment on peut mieux utiliser les systèmes d'information, les nouvelles technologies, le développement rapide des technologies pour aider au développement, à renforcer le rôle du secteur privé dans le développement de l'Afrique et sa contribution à la croissance économique, à renforcer le commerce intra-africain et à établir des méthodes plus transparentes, plus fiables et plus complètes, disons, pour assurer une bonne fiscalité et une bonne politique financière qui répond aux défis du développement du continent africain. Comme l'a dit tout à l'heure Madame Biha, la réalisation de l'agenda 2030 des objectifs de développement durable, mais aussi l'agenda 2063 de l'Union africaine, demande beaucoup d'investissements. On a un montant faramineux de besoins d'investissement au niveau de l'Afrique. Ça demande aussi beaucoup de perspectives long terme et de stratégies en termes de créer les infrastructures, créer les facilités, créer le cadre qui va favoriser ce développement au niveau du continent par une meilleure interaction entre les pays africains. Donc, je pense que c'est une occasion de pouvoir discuter quelles sont les complémentarités et comment on peut favoriser cette collaboration sud-sud, on peut favoriser le développement, l'échange d'expériences entre les pays africains, mais aussi favoriser ce travail conjoint pour créer un continent qui est beaucoup mieux connecté et qui est beaucoup mieux à même d'exploiter le potentiel des nouvelles technologies. Je suis particulièrement heureuse que la conférence des ministres se fait au Maroc cette année. D'abord parce que le Maroc est un des pays fondateurs de la CEA, donc c'est une bonne chose de voir la conférence se tenir au Maroc dans ces circonstances, mais c'est aussi une bonne occasion de rapprocher et de permettre aux pays d'Afrique du Nord d'être plus à même et d'être mieux connectés avec le reste de l'Afrique. On sait que souvent l'Afrique du Nord est associée avec les pays arabes, pourtant l'Afrique du Nord fait partie de l'Afrique. Donc c'est une occasion justement de renforcer ce message et de réaffermir un peu cette relation. Et le Maroc est un leader dans ce domaine, ayant tracé sa stratégie, ses objectifs de renforcer les relations et de collaboration économique avec le reste de l'Afrique. Le Maroc aujourd'hui est devenu un des premiers investisseurs, sinon le premier investisseur en Afrique. Et c'est un message fort, je pense, qui sera envoyé pour dire que ce que nous discutons est faisable, est réalisable, et il faut qu'il y ait une volonté politique et une volonté au niveau de tous les pays africains pour vraiment travailler ensemble et pouvoir réaliser les objectifs de développement et la croissance dont nous avons besoin pour répondre aux besoins d'une population de plus en plus jeune, de plus en plus nombreuse, et les ambitions d'une classe moyenne aussi qui est en train de croître de façon régulière. Voilà, merci beaucoup, je vais m'arrêter là. Je passe la parole à Ad.
Thank you. Thank you, Lydia. Excellent overview. I'm sure that you're getting prepared to grill Madam Lydia on some of the issues she's raised to your satisfaction. She's available, as always, the Deputy Executive Secretary, available for questions and interviews later on. Just let us know and we'll make it happen. To Adam and Hiraika, you are the lead, your division is the lead in terms of preparing the economic report on Africa. Could you perhaps perhaps help us understand how the ERA, Economic Report on Africa, links to this very important theme. We'd like to hear from you on this. And of course, there are issues of trade and the CFTA, where are we at? And so how do these issues come together and how do we make sense of them?
شكرا ميرسي السلام عليكم good afternoon يسعدني أن أشارك هنا في التنوير الإعلامي هذا and I would like to be very brief to give you some figures on the theme of the conference and the economic report on Africa 2019. Economic report on Africa is an annual flagship publication of ECA. It will be presented, it will be launching it on the 23rd of this month. So I would like to invite you to the launch. Very briefly, you know that Africa has a huge financial gap. We need a lot of financial resources to finance our development goals as articulated in Agenda 2030 of the UN and the Agenda 2063 of the African Union. In our estimates, Africa needs between 630 and 1.2 billion a year in order to achieve, to invest in infrastructure and so on and so forth and achieve Agenda 2030. In short, Africa's financing gap is about 11% of GDP. There are 11%. And we know that we cannot rely on external sources to bridge this financing gap. So we have to rely on domestic sources. And fiscal policy is the main source of mobilizing domestic resources for government to finance expenditure needed to achieve our development goals. Currently, we have government revenue GDP ratio of 20.1%. 20.1% is a government GDP ratio. And we have a tax GDP ratio of 15.4% of GDP. Globally, the average is above 27%. So there is a huge potential for African countries to mobilize public revenues from different sources, from taxes, non-tax income, from royalties, taxation of natural resources, and by improving fiscal administration, tax administration, and so on. Governments have a lot to do, and I think it is possible for African countries really to mobilize the amount of revenue we need to finance our development goals. About 10 years ago, the average tax revenue in Africa was about 7.5%. It has more than doubled within 10 years. So Africa can do it. And we have the trust that Africa can do it. So what we need to do is really to grow faster. Now, in 2018, Africa grew at 3.2%. Africa needs to increase this growth to 10% or more in order to achieve the SDGs. And Africa needs to invest more. Now our investment ratio is about 22-23%. We need to increase it to 30 to 35% to achieve our goals. To do that, we are advising African governments to focus more on mobilizing domestic resources, public and private. Now we are focusing on public resources that can be mobilized through different means, as I mentioned, by broadening the tax base, by mobilizing more non-tax revenue, and by managing their natural resources better, by fighting tax evasion, tax avoidance, and illicit financial flows in general, by improving tax administration, fighting corruption. And here we come to the issue of digitalization. We are living in a world of opportunities, really. So digitalization is one of the opportunities we have now. We can leapfrog. We have said that Africa can promote green growth, can promote digitalization and leapfrog. And we have a number of examples, countries in Africa like Kenya, Rwanda, South Africa, Burkina Faso, Uganda, increase their tax revenue collection significantly by about 6% through digitalization, through digital filing and electronic payment of taxes. Governments were able to increase tax revenue collection significantly and to reduce the cost of tax collection. Also through digitalization, governments have been able to improve management of public expenditure, allocation of public expenditure, and to reduce corruption significantly also, just through digitalization. Just imagine when you go to a government office and there is a digital system, the opportunities for corruption are limited. If you want to get a license for your car or to get a driver's license, and you have everything has to go through this system, then the opportunities for corruption are limited. So digitalization will help us directly increase revenue collection, revenue management. It can also help us in many ways, of course, to improve trade. And with the coming of the African Continental Free Trade Area, and we have seen improvement in the system of trade handling of exports and imports at ports, and so on, and customs and so on, that has really helped some countries to enhance trade. African Continental Free Trade Area will enhance trade in many different ways through facilitation of movement of goods, people, and services, which will undoubtedly increase investment within Africa, private and public investment within Africa. At the same time, when it helps us to increase investment, our income will increase and we'll be able to generate more revenue. And the loss in our estimates in terms of revenue collection will be minimal, because some countries are concerned that with opening of borders under the Continental Free Trade Area, they will lose revenue from customs. But that revenue in our estimates, revenue loss will be compensated through increases in income, investment and income, which will lead to an increase in tax and customs revenue for African countries. And second, also digitalization, as my colleagues say, helps us to provide more opportunities for the private sector to grow. Even investing in digital technology is an opportunity for the private sector to grow. But digitalization also is a tool for private sector to invest in other sectors, in businesses, in manufacturing, and so on and so forth. So that investment will eventually feed back in terms of increased income, increased tax base, and increased revenue for government. These are the issues that have been discussed in economic report on Africa 2019, as I said, which will be launched on the 23rd of this month, but they also relate to the issues that will be discussed tomorrow in the experts meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. I don't know how many of you remember that 21st of March is the anniversary of the signing of the Continental Free Trade Agreement. So we really are 1 year since that historic signing. And maybe from any of the three colleagues, it would be good to know how this anniversary is being celebrated. Are we on track? We know that 2 countries, I think we have 2 countries to go to complete the 22. And how does that fit into this discussion, knowing that we have 11 years to go in order to see whether we've fulfilled the Sustainable Development Goals? The urgency seems very, very clear to everyone. A comment from any of the three of you.
Alors, I think everybody can comment on that, because here there is the link between the CFTA, the signing and the ratification now, making sure that we have the required ratification. And as you say, there are two left. So I think we are all confident that we'll get there. So, but also you are linking this with the SDGs and how the two come together. I would like to go back to what Adam and also Lydia were saying about trade, about private sector development, and also the opportunity of mobilizing additional resources to finance actually the priorities and the SDGs, including the priorities of Agenda 2063. Now, having said that, I think a number of studies that were conducted by ECA have demonstrated very clearly that for African countries that are trading among themselves, that they trade goods that have higher value added, more than they do with the external world. So what does it mean? It means that among African countries, there are greater opportunities of a number of African countries that have not industrialized, that have not put in place actually a strong infrastructure of manufacturing, that have not modernized their service sectors, that have not modernized the agriculture sector. There are great opportunities in a way to start trading this kind of goods and services on the continent. That's one. The second, if we are talking about manufacturing, increasing manufacturing, increasing value addition of products and services, we are also talking about creating more jobs. We are talking about the growth of the private sector. And we know that if we are creating this big market, that it's the private sector that is going to invest. So it's about increasing also revenue to finance the SDGs. It's about increasing revenue to finance also the infrastructures and the huge gap, the financing gap that Adam talked about. And then it's about also investing in the social sectors that are prominent in the SDGs. So I will leave it there and ask also my colleagues to comment on that. But I would say also 11 years is around the corner. We are almost there. The key question now is whether really we are going to achieve these SDGs, and especially if we remain with the growth rates that Adam has already indicated. He has already indicated that we will need double-digit growth rates to be able to achieve the SDGs. And in fact, the UN report, the UN economic report of last year has already indicated that for low-income countries, that a minimum of 7% growth rate is required to be able to achieve the SDGs. And many, many countries are not at that minimum. Thank you.
Well, thank you, DS. I arrived the day before yesterday. My bag did not arrive. I went to town and I bought this jacket. I love it. You know what? This jacket, I bought it for 10% of the average price you would pay for a jacket in France or in Europe.
Okay,
It's made
very
in
good.
Morocco.
It's made where?
Made in Morocco.
Okay, very
So
good.
why do we import things that we can produce in Africa? I think we should think very carefully. And that is the reason why Morocco is now looking south more than north. The market is there, the raw material is there, and the opportunities are there. And now I think we have just two countries to go to have the African Continental Free Trade Area operational. And I think African people, governments, should see AFCFTA as a golden opportunity, and we should not waste it. Like the Deputy Executive Secretary said, why do we import manufactured goods from China or from anywhere? They can be made here. And you know, I'm aware of what is going on, for example, in this country. But I was listening to the news last night, and they say they are producing spare parts for major car producers in Morocco. And I know that they are also producing some parts for big companies like Ponage.
Yes, yeah.
So they are producing a lot of things that we never saw possible before in Africa. Now is the opportunity for us really to stop importing manufactured goods from abroad. We have a lot of agricultural production, yet we import processed goods from outside of Africa just because we do not invest enough in simple technology to manufacture, to process the raw material we produce. So I think the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement will be our lifetime opportunity. For example, for us staying here, this is the opportunity that will transform Africa. And for this to happen, like we said, and like we are going to discuss during this conference, we have to depend more and more on our own financial resources through private and public means.
Juste pour compléter ce que Adam vient de dire, justement, je voudrais vous donner un exemple concret par rapport à cette intégration au niveau de l'Afrique. Au niveau du bureau Afrique du Nord, donc nous, en tant que bureau, nous couvrons les pays qui vont de la Mauritanie jusqu'au Soudan. Donc c'est Mauritanie, Maroc, Algérie, Tunisie, Libye, Égypte et Soudan. Et on a fait une étude sur les chaînes de valeur en Afrique du Nord, et on s'est rendu compte à travers cette étude que beaucoup de produits qui sont fabriqués, qui sont produits en Afrique du Nord, dans un des pays d'Afrique du Nord, sont en fait importés soit d'Europe, soit de Chine, soit d'Asie, donc pas de Chine mais d'Asie, et cela représente un potentiel très important pour créer cette chaîne de valeur qui s'intègre au niveau de l'Afrique du Nord. Un exemple très concret, dans le secteur du textile, par exemple le coton est produit en grande quantité en Égypte et au Soudan. Et il y a une industrie du textile en Tunisie et au Maroc, mais aussi dans d'autres pays. Et on a vu que, par exemple, un pays comme l'Algérie importe beaucoup de vêtements et de produits textiles d'ailleurs que l'un des pays africains du Nord, alors que c'est les pays voisins qui produisent ces produits. Donc ça, c'est un exemple concret d'une étude que nous avons faite, que vous pouvez trouver sur le site web pour l'Afrique du Nord. Si on regarde l'exemple de l'industrie des voitures, si on regarde l'exemple de l'aviation, de l'industrie aéronautique qui s'est développée au Maroc, on voit réellement la possibilité, le potentiel de pouvoir créer des chaînes de valeur africaines et exporter des produits qui sont manufacturés sur le continent vers d'autres pays. Et le cas du Maroc existe par ailleurs. Il y a aussi une industrie automobile très développée, par exemple en Afrique du Sud, qui peut couvrir différentes régions. Donc c'est vraiment différents clusters qui peuvent être créés. La zone de libre-échange continentale africaine, justement, va faciliter en créant un cadre favorable pour qu'il y ait cet échange entre les pays africains et pour qu'il y ait un cadre et une réglementation harmonieuse au niveau de tous les pays, de tout le continent. Et bien sûr, le fait d'utiliser les nouvelles technologies et d'utiliser le commerce électronique et tout ce qui est technologie d'information et numérisation va aussi faciliter cette connaissance, la dissémination d'informations et la collaboration entre les pays pour pouvoir savoir où se trouve le marché, où se trouve la production et comment ces échanges peuvent avoir lieu. Un des facteurs importants, c'est justement l'infrastructure, on en a parlé, et je pense qu'il y a beaucoup d'efforts et beaucoup d'institutions qui investissent et qui essaient de créer cette infrastructure, ce qu'on appelle le backbone, qui va permettre justement cet échange et de développer ce commerce intra-africain. Merci.
Il y avait une question sur les impôts. Donc sur l'imposition qui fait fuir les investisseurs et les investisseurs locaux. Il y a un proverbe, je pense que c'est un proverbe américain qui dit que, en français, j'essaie de traduire, qui dit que on est sûr de deux choses. Dans la vie, on est sûr de deux choses. On est sûr qu'on va mourir et on est sûr qu'on doit payer nos impôts. Donc il n'y a pas moyen d'y échapper. Dans les pays où effectivement l'impôt, la fiscalité marche. Je pense que dans beaucoup de nos pays, et nous avons entendu les chiffres, vous avez entendu les chiffres que nous a donné Adam, il y a beaucoup de pans de l'économie qui ne sont pas imposés, qui ne sont pas bien imposés, mais aussi qui ne sont pas du tout imposés, ou parfois d'ailleurs, qui font l'objet de, comment dire, de favoritisme. Et c'est vrai que chaque fois qu'il faut payer l'impôt, ça fait toujours mal. Hein. On n'est pas toujours très confortable. Mais je pense qu'il y a un problème. Le problème, en fait, il y a une question de transparence, mais aussi de redevabilité des responsables politiques. Donc de savoir que si nous payons nos impôts, que font les responsables politiques de ces impôts? Et je pense que c'est ça le problème très souvent. C'est de savoir comment ces revenus qui ont été mobilisés auprès d'individus, auprès de sociétés et ainsi de suite, comment ces revenus sont utilisés. Je pense que c'est là le problème et c'est pour ça que parfois, dans beaucoup de nos pays, les gens ne sont pas très contents sur la question de l'imposition. Donc il y a cette question de transparence aussi qui est aussi abordée dans le rapport de la CEA 2019.
Merci. Donc juste quelques petites réflexions. Je pense par rapport à la question de consommer africain, la décision de consommation, la décision de consommation est une décision économique. Elle va dépendre de ce que j'ai dans ma poche et de ce que je peux m'offrir. Et donc, on a beau dire qu'il faut consommer africain, comme l'a dit Madame Bia, je pense qu'il y a une question de qualité, mais il y a une question de prix qui soit acceptable. Mais il y a aussi toute la question de comment réglementer ce qui est importé, ce qui est vendu sur le marché et comment ça rentre. Et donc, si on revient à la zone de libre-échange et si on crée justement cet espace qui favorise l'échange entre les pays africains, peut-être que ce sera un espace qui va diminuer l'envie d'importer par ailleurs, parce qu'on aura quelque chose qui fonctionnera mieux au niveau du continent. Mais in fine, c'est toujours une décision économique qui va dépendre de facteurs individuels et non pas, elle ne peut pas être imposée d'en haut. Et de même par rapport à toute la question de taxation et d'imposition, je pense qu'il y a des approches innovantes qui devraient être considérées et qui permettraient justement d'avoir un système de fiscalité qui marche et qui ne fait pas fuir les investisseurs ou qui ne fait pas fuir les personnes. Madame tout à l'heure a parlé de l'imposition des transactions mobiles. C'est peut-être pas les transactions mobiles qu'il faut imposer, mais peut-être d'une autre façon de récupérer ce qui est transféré au niveau économique pour justement améliorer l'infrastructure et réinvestir dans l'économie. Et je crois que le mot important, c'est vraiment comment cet argent est utilisé et que cet argent soit utilisé au profit du pays lui-même et au profit des citoyens qui sont en train de payer leurs impôts. Par rapport à la question sur le rapport, effectivement, nous avons différentes sessions qui vont parler de l'intégration régionale et du développement du commerce intra-africain. Et il y a même un rapport sur Africa Regional Integration Index qui va expliquer exactement le niveau d'intégration au niveau de l'Afrique, le niveau de comment le commerce a évolué et dans quel sens, et les perspectives aussi du développement du commerce. Merci.
Thank you. Very quickly, if I ask you, which country is the main trading partner for Kenya? Would you guess which country is the main trading partner for Kenya? Uganda. You know, when I was a college student, long time ago in the 80s, we used to have textbooks that come from Europe and America that tell us African countries cannot trade among themselves because they have similar economic structures and they cannot produce goods to buy next door. Now this has changed. Kenya is the main trading partner for Uganda. South Africa is the main trading partner for almost all countries in Southern Africa. In North Africa, unfortunately, still trade sub-regional trade is limited. But we will see the day when Morocco will be the main trading partner for Algeria and so on. It's coming. It's coming. Now, on taxes, on average, the tax ratio is in Africa is about 50% of the tax ratio, of the tax rate. The tax rate in Africa is about 50% of the tax rate in Europe. So, and you cannot attract investment just by slashing taxes. Investors come for different reasons. And in our analysis, giving them incentives, not paying tax or paying low taxes, do not affect their investment decisions. Their investment decisions depend on other factors, which we will explain when we launch our report. Again, very quickly, there is a report on regional integration and the way we see African continental free trade area will work. It will be launched tomorrow. Finally, the journalist from Algeria said that we still need financing from abroad, and we still have agreements with non-African countries. Yes, we will continue to have that, definitely. But in terms of percentage, we will rely increasingly on domestic resources, external capital inflows, all the overseas development assistance and so on are declining, have been declining and will continue to decline. And yes, there are economic partnership agreements with non-African countries. We cannot say no to all African countries, but intra-Africa or African Continental Free Trade Area should come first. Any agreement with non-African countries has to respect all the conditions and agreements signed by African countries to promote intra-African trade. We stood very strongly against economic partnership with Europe. Unfortunately, these agreements were not finalized, and now we have AFCFTA in place, and this will safeguard our development interests. So Africa first, and I think Africa first is something that now almost all African countries are committed to when they sign the African Continental Free Trade Area in Kigali last March 2018. Thank you.
So thank you very much. I think we've come to the end of the press briefing this afternoon. We'll have another press conference on March the 25th. A much bigger press conference, but this was a very important opportunity to have a briefing on the issues and the week ahead. Please feel free to request for any interviews you may want. We're all here at your disposal. In terms of housekeeping issues, we will be communicating with sponsored media on the logistical details to do with the DSA. That will be communicated to you by Citra, who has been handling your travel. Thank you very much. Again, thank you to our panel.
Thank you.
See you in the next few hours.
Thank you.
And during the week. Thank you.